For most people, the teen years are some of the healthiest. The frequent colds and other illnesses of childhood are gone, and the problems of aging are still years away. So, most teens don't give much thought to healthcare. They don't even go to the doctor very often.
Well, it's been at least a year, at least.
I don't get very sick that often.
I go when I have something wrong with me. I don't like cold stethoscopes, and I don't like just having to be checked out. I don't like the smell.
I mean, nobody wants to go to the doctor. I don't want to go to the doctor.
But want to or not, everyone needs to see a doctor periodically. You need their advice, answers to your questions, and reassurance about all the changes going on in your life.
We have a place where you can come and you can talk to folks when your parents are bugging you, when your friends are giving you trouble. If you want somebody to talk to, here we are.
A lot of teenagers don't know, whether they're the right weight or height, whether they're properly sexually developed, what's happening in each, as they get older. They haven't understood what their bodies are doing. And my purpose here is to answer all your questions.
Where do you go when you have questions about your health?
I have to sing and it just hurts to, take a deep breath.
15-year-old Christina goes to the doctor for regular checkups. But, unlike in the past, she now sees the doctor alone. And she says it makes a huge difference.
Just to talk about things that, the things that you just don't want to say to your mom out loud.
And doctors can help explain that to your parents.
When I tell them about confidentiality, I said I would like the chance to talk to Johnny alone, because there's some things that they share with another adult, particularly a doctor who's in charge of their health care, that they may not feel comfortable in sharing with you.
Like puberty, sex, and STIs. Doctors understand your concerns and are bound by a certain level of confidentiality.
Up to, but not including, serious chance of death. If the child's going to commit suicide or going to kill her mother, I am probably, going to say, well, let's talk to your mom about that one. If that child is doing drugs, is sexually active, that's covered by the deal.
Confidentiality so assure the teenager that in some areas that are not dangerous or not threatening to his life, he can have that secret between us. I think that's part of his adulthood, that he should learn that there are areas that he can ask information with a health professional that will just be handled by an adult.
And knowing that she can talk openly to her doctor has helped Christina be honest and feel comfortable with difficult topics she doesn't want to talk about with her mom.
It's nice to know that I have the option of not telling her and telling a doctor, and knowing that there will be somebody there to listen to me.
Some parents may not like being left out of the loop, but Christina says her mom eventually understood why it's important.
I think initially she was a little, well, why couldn't you tell me? But I think as she thought about it a little bit more, I think it made sense to her.
And the way I explain it to parents, if your child needs medical assistance, they're going to get it better from me than if I know what's going on, than if nobody knows what's going on.
But to know what's really going on, teens have to tell the truth. A study by the American Medical Association shows almost half of teens lie to their doctors about risky behaviors like sexual activity and drug use, because they're afraid the doctor will tell their parents. But Dr. Wagner says that when a doctor promises confidentiality, you'll get it.
These kids are not going to show up to the doctor if they think it's going to get back to their parents. And in return, I'll ask them to be honest. So the trade is honesty for confidentiality.
And if your goal is to get straight answers, you've got to be responsible enough to explain your situation honestly and completely, so that your doctor understands and can give you the best possible information.
You have to realize that it's their job and it's their profession. They do this every day with hundreds of kids.
I mean, they're not there to make fun of you or ridicule you. They're just there to help. That's what they're getting paid for.
So when you go to the doctor and you have questions, check it out. Ask. That's why they're there. And believe it or not, most doctors are pretty cool. They're not going to run back and say, guess what? She said or he said. Ask the question. And that's a very good source of information.
Even though doctors are available and willing to talk, even though they promise confidentiality, the awkwardness or embarrassment may still be too much for some teens. So, they look elsewhere for information.
I think where kids tend to go, they go to other friends, they go to their peers first. Then they tend to go to young adults, someone, cousins, they go to friends, family friends they think that are cool, that they think they can talk to.
I think a lot of times people just pick it up at school. You don't necessarily know where it comes from, but the information is out there, either from an older brother or sister.
And through that, then there's also a lot of misinformation
Exactly,
and a lot of wives' tales and just kind of crazy stuff that you hear that you assume is true because it's coming from Susie in the locker room and she's cool, but I think the best information is from an informed source.
I think the most important thing is to always have a discussion with your parents or some other close family member if it's not your parents, so they can help you through the process.
And that means helping you sort through all the information that's out there, whether it's from the locker room, health class, or on the internet. The internet has millions of sites that look professional and official, and teens are checking them out for answers to health questions.
I look on the internet like when I want to find symptoms for something.
If it was a personal problem that I didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody about, I would probably just look it up online.
The internet can provide teens with useful information about health issues, but it can also give them misinformation.
Whether it's information about a drug or something that you eat or take, whether it's just anything, has to be double checked, because just because it's on a website does not mean it's true.
So how can you tell the difference between reliable sites and sites with misinformation?
Make sure you know who's putting that information on the website. Usually the really good internet sites will let you know who's writing the stuff. They'll even give you a little blurb about who's doing it. Make sure it's someone you to trust.
Go to medical-based or psychological-based sites where the information has been reviewed and is real good.
And sometimes the web address itself can be a good indicator. .coms and .nets are commercial sites, which may exist just to make money. .edus are educational sites run by colleges and universities. .govs are government sites, like the CDC site. .org sites are run mostly by nonprofit organizations. No matter what, for medical advice,
Be careful when you're looking on the internet, whether it's a .edu, .org, I mean, it all depends on who's actually making that web page and posting it, and that could be anybody.
these teens do use the internet to look up health information, but they do it carefully and critically.
Every once in a while, I will look up medical advice on the internet, basically search, and then to find out any common websites that have the most hits for it, and check those.
I usually go straight to medical sites that I know I can trust. I don't think I can really trust the internet or anything. I don't really put it as my main information source.
I can trust it if it's from certain medical sites and stuff like that, but if it was just randomly on the internet, I probably wouldn't trust it that much.
It's a lot of things out there, and it.
There's so much health information out there. Teens can even find online mental health sites that seem like a substitute for seeing a therapist in person. These sites can be appealing because talking about problems face-to-face with a stranger isn't easy.
It would be awkward because you don't know them and you're spilling your guts to them and you don't know you could trust them or not.
A little intimidating probably, yeah, could be.
Mostly the way they would act towards us, would they respect us, what do they think of us?
That sort of nervousness is one of the reasons online therapists are popping up all over the internet. And some teens are using them instead of making an appointment with someone in person. 17-year-old Christina is an online patient hundreds of miles away from her therapist. She writes,
"There were things that I was feeling that I'd be too afraid to say out loud to someone. Typing seems much easier, and I believe it's a big help."
Christina says her experience was good, but professionals warn that it can be dangerous to share personal information online.
Who knows who's hiding behind an email? The problems with security. Do you really want your mental health history out there on the web.
And she says there's no substitute for a face-to-face interaction.
The reasons we want to do the face-to-face is it's a human connection. I get to look at your face, your facial expressions, your body language, and that's a big piece that can't be done in an email. It just can't.
Basically, I think they could help me better if they could see what I'm like and my personality, because when you're just typing text back and forth, they don't really get to know you very well.
Even though online therapy is risky, you can still find tools on the internet to help you, if you know where to look.
If you're looking online, go to the National Institute of Mental Health, those kinds of sites that are legitimate, and if take the checklist there. But that's just the first part. If it looks as though you meet some of the criteria, yes, I do have this symptom, yes, that's true of me, yes. And check it out with your parents too. Have them do this with you, and then take that information to a licensed mental health professional.
I mean, I would definitely trust the doctor more than a website, because the doctor is going to be able to do a much more in-depth analysis of your health or some type of illness that you have.
Some doctors have found a valuable use of the internet that can help their patients heal. Some teens who have serious illnesses need more than treatments and medications. They need emotional support as well. While doctors use the latest technology to cure disease and lessen pain, they're also using it to ease the feelings of isolation and fear that come with serious illnesses.
I'm on treatment for kidney failure.
These teens are linked together through a hospital network designed to put patients with similar medical conditions in contact so they can share their experiences.
Because they may be thinking, well, none of my friends understand, but this new friend that I've made, who I've talked to through the computer, they can understand what my world is like.
A world full of tests, treatments, surgeries, pain. But having someone who understands can make it a little easier to handle.
Sometimes it might not be the same illness, but they're going through the same procedures. How'd you handle your dialysis, or how'd you handle your radiation treatment?
No matter what they're going through, there's someone else who's been there before. Even outside of the hospital network, there are support groups and internet chat rooms run specifically to discuss problems that teens face. If you find a reputable site, the camaraderie and connection with other teens in your situation can make a big difference.
And when they're talking to different kids, it's just amazing to see when the other kid kind of opens up to share what they're going through, then it allows them to open up.
Friends, parents, doctors, the internet, all can be valuable sources of information, but you have to learn to recognize that some are more trustworthy than others.
I tell people when they're looking up information, don't just go to one source. Check it out with several sources. So if you read about it here and then you ask John in the locker room and John says something different, you said, these two, that doesn't match. Let me check it out with someone else, or let me check it out with another source.
Because ultimately, teens are getting to an age where they are responsible for their own health. Doctors say they can help teens make that transition.
We're really focused on preventive medicine, and so our interest is keeping folks healthy. And we're interested in growth and development. So the issues that happen for kids are things that we're concerned about.
Pediatricians especially are prepared to deal with the problems and issues teenagers are facing every day.
Sports issues, school issues, women's health issues, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, suicide, depression. I mean, all of those things that come up in an adolescent's life are things that pediatricians are sensitive to.
But a lot of teens feel like they've outgrown the pediatrician.
They often don't want to sit in a doctor's waiting office with a lot of little 2-year-olds and crying babies.
But there are options.
A lot of county facilities have teen clinics, and those a lot of the time are being used by adolescents, particularly in late adolescence. Many hospitals have nurse advice lines nowadays, Our nurse advice line director tells us that they get a fair amount of calls from adolescents who just want to ask questions. And these numbers are advertised, they're in the phone book, they're advertised on television.
So there are ways to get your questions answered accurately, to avoid unnecessary health risks and problems altogether. And it's up to you individually to make sure you are informed, to know as much as you can, and to get help when you need it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. First, when you get older, your parents aren't going to be there as much to make sure you're all right. And then, you're going through physical changes and stuff like that. And then you also have all these social pressures like drugs and stuff. So you always have to be kind of cognizant of everything that's going around you and how it's going to affect you.
What I tell teens is understand this is your body. You are responsible, and this is the only body you're going to get. You may do things on the outside to change the way it looks, but guess what? This is it for you. So if you don't take care of it, no one else will.
I think at this age we've started to notice that we have to take responsibility for our actions and that it's our body and we're the only ones that are going to be affected in the long run by our choices.
What can you do to take more responsibility for your own health?